Okay, let's be honest. For a lot of us, the thought of public speaking, it's like, whew, it's right up there with like, I don't know, getting a root canal.
Yeah.
But what if you could actually kind of enjoy it? You know, getting up and presenting your ideas. What if you could walk into that meeting, that presentation, and be like, yeah, I got this.
Yeah.
And judging from this stack of notes and tips that you've got on public speaking, it seems like you are so ready to like ditch the dread and become this like, embrace your inner orator.
Totally. And you've already done like the biggest thing, which is like you've acknowledged that this is something that you want to like actually get better at, you want to improve. And the cool thing is that, communicating well, it's not just for like CEOs and politicians, right?
Right. Yeah.
It applies to everything. Job interviews,
Yeah.
just sharing your thoughts in a way that people are going to like listen to.
Yes. I love that. And that's why we're here. We're doing this deep dive. We're going to like unearth the most practical, and I'm even going to say enjoyable path to like public speaking, like mastery.
I love it.
We're going to unpack 5 like core steps that take you from help, I'd rather wrestle a bear to like, bring on the microphone.
Yes.
All right. Step 1, and I think this is going to resonate with you. Prep is your secret weapon. I know. Prep.
It sounds,
It does not sound very fun. Like, who wants to prep?
Right.
It sounds as thrilling as watching paint dry.
Yeah.
But trust me, this is where the magic happens.
This is it. This is the foundation. Everything else builds on this, you know? You can't build a house without a solid foundation, right?
Yeah.
And a big part of this is understanding who you're talking to, right? Like, think about it. Giving a presentation to your coworkers, that is not the same as like pitching a business idea to like a bunch of investors.
That's such a good point.
Totally different vibe.
And it makes me think about like how I would explain, I don't know, like a technical concept differently to engineers than I would to like my family at dinner.
100%.
You know what I mean?
You got to tailor that message. Who are you talking to?
Yeah.
What are their priorities?
Totally.
Think about it. Like you were saying, if you're explaining the technical concept to engineers, you might like dive into the nitty gritty details. But if it's your family, you're probably going to use analogies.
Yes, for sure. For sure.
Simplify things, right?
Totally. Yeah.
So it's all about knowing your audience.
It's like tailoring a suit,
Yes.
Like the basic structure is the same.
Okay.
But it's all about the fit and the details that make the difference. So how do we actually go about like doing that?
Well, think about it like building a house, right?
Okay.
You wouldn't just start like slapping up walls without a blueprint, would you?
No.
Disaster.
I can imagine the chaos.
Yeah. So that's where a good outline comes in. It's the roadmap for your presentation. Keeps you on track. Make sure you deliver your message in a way that's, clear and engaging. You know, take, for example, Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech, right? It wasn't just like a powerful message. It was meticulously structured, building momentum with every single point.
It's true. And it's so true. I mean, it wasn't just powerful. It was unforgettable.
Yes.
And I think it highlights that preparation. When you do it right, it doesn't have to be boring.
No, not at all. It's about crafting a narrative. It's about drawing people in, leaving that lasting impact.
Okay, so we've got our metaphorical blueprint. We've got our audience in mind. Now what?
Now we got to like distill your message down to its essence, right? What's that one big thing you want your audience to remember?
This is where it gets really interesting because it's like, how do you cut through all the noise?
Yeah.
Right? And just like, what's the heart of what you want to say?
Exactly. And a lot of times it means like resisting that urge to like cram in as much information as possible or like, use all the fancy jargon.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, it's like clarity over complexity every time.
Totally.
Think about, Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
Presentations, like master of taking these like really complex ideas, but making them so simple.
So true.
But still impactful, right?
He had this way, I think, of connecting with people, no matter what their like, technical background was, because he focused on the why.
Right. Yeah.
Like not just what the product was, but like this is how it's going to make your life better.
That's it. And that's a huge takeaway, I think, for anybody when you're like crafting your message. It's like, okay, if they only remember one thing, what is that one thing, right? Like that's your North Star.
Such a good way to think about it. It's like distilling it down. Like what's the headline?
Yes.
If this were,
Exactly. Think about yourself like, not even as a speaker, but like as a communicator.
Yeah.
You're crafting an experience.
Ooh, I like that. A shift in perspective.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've prepped, we've like honed our message. Now comes the part that I think a lot of people like dread, the
Yeah.
practice.
Yeah.
But before we like dive into that, can I just confess something?
Yeah.
I used to think practice meant like memorizing my script, like word for word.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And let me tell you, it's like I just sounded like a robot.
Yeah, totally. I think we've all been there, right? Like where you think you have to like memorize it word for word.
Yeah.
But the good news is that effective practice, it's not about that. It's about like internalizing your message and finding the flow, right? Like
Yeah.
how do you deliver this in a way that feels natural and engaging?
That's such a relief to hear. So
Yeah.
so how do we go about practicing in a way that's actually like helpful and not just like painful?
Well, I mean, one thing, and you actually had this in your notes, which I thought was really interesting, was recording yourself, like
Oh
practicing.
gosh, I
The
know.
worst.
But I will say it is so illuminating.
Oh, it's so helpful.
It's like watching a video replay of yourself, giving a presentation, because then you can see, oh, I do that thing where I like say too much, or I'm like, playing with my hair, whatever
Yeah.
it is.
Totally. It gives you that like objective perspective that you can't get otherwise.
Yeah.
And another thing, this one sometimes gets like kind of, pushed to the back burner, but I think it's really important practicing in front of a mirror.
Yeah.
I know it sounds silly.
It feels so weird,
It feels so weird, but
but it's helpful.
it's helpful because you're forced to look at your body language.
Totally.
All right.
Are you making eye contact? Are your gestures natural? Are they engaging?
And, so much of what we communicate, it's not even the words we're saying, it's our body language.
Right. It's all the nonverbal stuff.
Exactly. Like, think about the speakers who like really, really captivate you.
Yeah.
Like they have this way of like, they command the room without even like, it's incredible.
There's just like this air of confidence
Yes.
and authenticity.
Right.
They just own it.
And the more you practice, the more you embody that confidence. Right? It becomes less about acting confident and more about you genuinely feeling it.
Yes.
And that's when things really start to click.
Love it.
Yeah.
Like they say, practice makes progress.
Exactly. Nobody's perfect.
Right?
It's all about, honing your craft, stepping into your power.
Ooh, I love that. I love that. Okay, so we've talked about how important prepping is. We talked about distilling your message. We talked about practicing like a pro. But like, what about when you're actually up there
Yeah.
on stage? You're in the conference room. Like, how do you like manage the nerves and really connect with those people who are sitting there in front of you?
Such a good question. And this leads us perfectly to step 4. Remember, it's not just you up there. Engage that audience.
And that's where the magic really happens.
Yes.
It's like that feeling when, you can tell that you're actually connecting with the people who are listening to you.
100%. It's no longer you versus them. It's like you're creating an experience together.
Totally, totally.
Right.
And it makes me think about like all the really engaging speakers I've seen. They have this way of like, even if they're in a room with, 1,000 people, it feels like you're talking directly to you.
Yes. It's like that one-on-one connection. Like they're just looking right at you.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, Oprah.
Yes. Oprah.
Master of eye contact.
Master of eye contact.
Making you feel seen.
Making you feel seen, making you feel heard.
Yes.
It's like she's talking to your soul. And it's not just the eye contact, right? It's like the warmth in her voice, that genuineness, like she's really present.
Yes. And she knows how to like play with her tone and her pace to like keep things interesting. It's like there's a rhythm to the way that she's talking.
You're so right. And that actually brings up another really good point about engaging with your audience, which is varying your delivery. Because, I mean, think about it. If you're listening to someone who's just droning on and on in a monotone, like no matter how good the content is,
Right. You're going to zone out.
boring.
Right.
Yeah, totally, totally.
Think about like, a storyteller, like when you were a kid.
Oh, yeah.
And they would like captivate you with their voice. They use pauses, they use emphasis, they'll get louder, they'll get quieter. Right?
Like they're painting a picture.
Exactly. And they're drawing you in.
And sometimes they use props too, like to really drive home the point.
Oh. You know who was so good at that? Steve Jobs.
Oh, yeah.
Remember when he introduced the MacBook Air? He pulled it out of a manila envelope?
Iconic. It was theater.
Yes.
And it made it so memorable. Exactly. Exactly. It's about creating those moments, those aha moments
Yes.
that stick with people.
Yes. Okay, so we've covered a lot. We've talked about prepping, like you're building a house. We talked about knowing that one big thing you want to say, practicing like a pro, engaging your audience,
Yeah.
like they're your best friends. But there's one final, and maybe kind of the scariest part we got to address, which is the fear.
The fear.
Because let's be real, no matter how prepped you are, there's always going to be those like pre-presentation jitters.
Always. It doesn't matter if you're like, giving a presentation to like 3 people or 300, like you're going to feel that like little bit of nervousness. It's normal.
Totally.
It's totally normal. But the key is to like reframe those nerves as excitement.
Okay.
Like that's your body getting you ready
Right.
to go out there and like, crush
So
it.
how do we do that? Because I know, like, for me, my instinct is just to, like, totally panic.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, one thing, and you actually, highlighted this in your research, which I thought was really interesting. It's like the power of positive self-talk. So instead of that inner critic that's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to mess up. This is a disaster. It's like, no, no, no.
Yeah.
Flip the script. It's like, I'm excited to share this message.
Yeah.
Right.
Like reframing it. Yeah.
Reframe it.
And I feel like taking a couple of deep breaths never hurts either.
Oh, 100%. Deep breaths, visualization, picture yourself succeeding.
Yes.
Right? It's like an athlete getting ready for the big game.
Totally. Totally. And even, you know what? It's like even those really great athletes, they still get nervous before the game.
Oh, for sure.
Like it's normal.
It's totally normal.
It's how you channel it.
It's how you channel it.
Yeah.
And it makes me think about, like some of the most iconic speakers throughout history, like, Mahatma Gandhi, right?
Oh, yeah.
Started out super, super shy.
Really?
Oh, yeah. He was terrified of public speaking, but he practiced. He persevered. It's a testament to the power of like what we're talking about.
Wow. So inspiring.
Right. Like you might be terrified now, but you keep practicing, you keep working at it, you can overcome it.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So as we like kind of start to wrap up this deep dive here, let's recap those 5 steps. We've got prepping, like we're building a house, knowing your one big thing, practicing till it feels like, like second nature, engaging with your audience like they're your friends, and remembering that the fear is normal. Like it's okay.
Totally. And, as you continue on this journey of like, honing your skills as a speaker,
Right.
remember to like ask yourself, how can I use this gift, like this gift of communication, to really connect with people, to inspire them, to make a difference?
Ooh, such a good question. You've given us so much to think about. It's definitely a journey, but like you said, it's a gift.
It is.
So to all our listeners out there, keep exploring, keep practicing, and keep sharing your voice with the world.